All right, everyone, welcome to another edition, Sunday edition of Crypto with English. Now, to say the very least, we are all in for a special treat today, both in regards to the product and especially as to the guests. So, I would love to introduce to you all Blue Hamel and Joy Katharina Lorck Schierning. These are essentially the brain trust behind Yen Jin. And if anybody has seen the promo content already, and I'm sure many of you have, this is the world's first NFT tokenized gin. So if you want to talk about a product that exists in two worlds, both in the physical and metaphysical slash metaverse, the NFT world, this is it. So Blue, Joy, thank you so much for joining me today. Now, both of you are highly accomplished individuals. Both of you are doing something very, very groundbreaking. And this is very much a pioneering type venture in entrepreneurship, in NFTs, and blockchain. So I want to give the floor to both of you quickly to introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about the product from your respective roles and kind of your respective philosophies and thinking behind
Hmm.
this. So, Joy, this is your second appearance on the show, so I'm very happy to see you here. Blue, this is the first time you're on the show. I've been very excited all week about this, even starting from our, initial phone call days ago. So, Blue, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. I'd just like to say thank you so much for having us on just to chat and kind of talk about the new product. And it's a pleasure to be here. But basically, it's like to take a little I take a long story short, but I've been working around like the content and in the more advertising world for the last 10 years and kind of like working around brands and kind of products and kind of being behind that. And I've been living in the States and then moved back to New Zealand over kind of COVID and all that time. And I connected with one of my friends out there called Luke, our other business partner, who runs
Right.
more the actual side of, he's the mixologist. He knows the world of taste of gin. He is a gin like connoisseur. Like that's all he does. He just knows it. And basically we connected and he said to me, I would love to release a gin. Would you be interested in kind of coming on and helping in the more the branding and design side? And I was like, wow, yeah, I'd love to. I've always been interested around drinks and like working for advertising agencies through Pinot Ricard and working with brands like Absolute Vodka and Jameson and Chivas Regal and kind of behind those old school brands, like how they
Right.
speak to people and their content. And but then on the side of that, I've been working around the fashion world. So it was kind of cool to come to with Luke and kind of like figure out how can we bring something new to the market, something that in an oversaturated market when it comes to gins. There's so many gins popping up, so many things happening. And we're like, okay, we're getting the taste there, we're getting the design there, but what's next? Like, what's next in the industry? What's happening with brands? What's going on? And I've been on the other side of that. I work a lot in the digital kind of space and 3D fashion and then 3D content. And I was like, and the rise of creating NFTs, and I create NFTs for just physical, just other content ourselves. And I saw that kind of opportunity. I was like, oh, there's no one really in the world trying to do it in a way of like gin being part of the blockchain. And
Right.
then I was like, okay, this is really cool, interesting. This is something to look into more deeply and kind of figure out why would we get into the blockchain. And at the same time as that, me and just trying to bring a story shorter, but basically me and Joy kind of connected in the back end of social media, just more around like how she runs so many different NFT pages and kind of she's
Yeah.
so tapped into the NFT world. And we just started connecting and then we started talking and then we just started talking about projects we've been working on. And this was one of the projects that we started to chat about. And then
Right.
with her amazing expertise and kind of what she's done with Sad Buns and a few other brands that she has on her books, we're like, okay, how can we actually tap into like yen and bring this to life in yen? And then that's when we started to actually build a proper roadmap. Like I knew I wanted to bring blockchain into it. I was like,
Right.
okay, it's cool to bring blockchain into it, but what actually gives it legs past that? Like, why are we actually
Right.
going to use the blockchain rather than like just have it for eye candy or make it interesting because we can drop a drink through an NFT? But then we started to build like kind of the membership base and what's going on around our brand and like where Yen sits. So we know in the alcohol industry how how popular it is to be part of these brands. And like people have whiskey clubs and they have all these different clubs when it comes to alcohol. And we're like, okay, cool. This is a way that we can bring into our brand, but using the blockchain to do that. So initially, what we were doing was releasing 100 NFTs, and from that you get into part of the Yen Club, and from that you get more benefits. You start becoming part of the brand, and you start becoming part of like getting more connected in, and you get discounts. You get a membership card, and when you go to our stockists and our local bars that have us, and you have this special card, you're an NFT holder, you get the discount at these places. And we've been very fortunate with Luke. Luke runs a very popular bar out here in New Zealand, in Christchurch, called Gin. And Luke has been running it through there. And now we've been doing a lot of taste testings, and everyone's loving the drink. And now we just kind of want to now merge this digital world and the physical world. And I think that's the great thing with us. With an NFT, there's a lot of NFT projects at the moment, but no one really has what's further next for these projects. They're saying that these things are coming, but it's quite good with us because we actually have a physical product that sits with this digital product.
That's awesome.
But I think maybe Joy can jump in and talk. Sorry, I don't mean to talk too much, but
No, not at all. And before we hop to Joy, I do have one question now, and I would provide a little bit of context to anybody on this. Blue Hamel is a genuine heavy hitter in both style and substance. So if you look him up online on any of the major social media handles, he has worked with Adidas, Louis Vuitton, Yeezy, Kylie Jenner, many different brands that have broad, you could say mainstream recognition. So from your point of view, with your background and the types of clients and brands you've worked on, what made you choose gin? Because I would imagine people would say, oh, Blue, listen, it's so much easier if you just, do this from a beer aspect or maybe a whiskey business model or something like that. So what made you, I guess you could say, stay the course when it comes to, okay, we're going to do this with gin?
I think initially it was because in New Zealand at the moment, gin is definitely a rising drink, and globally it's rising.
Right.
Especially in the UK, Europe, and back in New Zealand and Australia. It's not as popular yet here in Northern America, like the northern parts of America. So that's a great opportunity for us, and we see that as something that we can definitely tap into. But then also, what I think with gin, which is really interesting, is like whiskey takes years and years of kind of like creation, right? But with gin, you can literally, whatever's trending tomorrow, we could make a batch of that tonight, and have it in a bottle and ready to sell. And I think it's just such a cool avenue to be in, and there's so many different, like the tasting notes, the botanicals, and kind of like that craft behind it. But then also having this kind of, it's fresh, it's modern. It used to be like the drink you used to take to your grandma's 90th birthday. But now it's like becoming fresh, it's new, and people out, like the younger communities, are diving into it. It's easy to drink with a nice tonic, and easy to drink straight if you really want to. But it's like such a great, I think, and also because it's clean and it's fresh, and I feel like with the beer industry and those other industries, it's just kind of like, what's next? Everyone's just like, okay, oh, cool, there's a beer here, but what's next after that? And I kind of think with the spirit world and kind of getting into it a little bit more this way, it's just a new avenue for me, for sure, because I've been way more connected in the fashion world, and I've worked under like doing brand content for these type of brands, but never really had like a huge insight into it. So learning from Luke's been great, and like understanding the craft behind it, but also understanding just the journey it takes to build like a fully established business, I guess, from the ground up, from like the manufacturer, but then into the digital space, which has been really interesting and really fun to be part of. So been very fortunate to, and also have a great team around it.
And Joy, again, thank you very much for coming back onto the show. So, if you can kind of tell your origin story, how did you become part of this project, Yen Jin? And by the way, like I said, this is the front lines. This is the frontier of probably and most likely where NFTs and products are moving next. Like I said, this is something that simultaneously exists in two worlds, and you two are already doing it. So, Joy, I know you're a serial entrepreneur. You wear many hats. You're a part of many projects. How did you get into it?
Well, first, thank you so much for having me back, Adam. I think it's just so cool that we were able to do this and that it just worked out so well, seeing as we literally just launched Yen's site. So, and that was so cool that we were all able to share the link and everybody can go check it out for sure if they are on your channel or Crypto with English, which is awesome because we put so much time into just getting the website to be perfect and ready. But yeah, so my background is in entrepreneurship, and in 2021, I pivoted essentially away temporarily from being in the fashion realm, but in the physical fashion realm to kind of focus on NFTs and to try to discover how we as a startup in the fashion world could stand out amongst the competition in a more novel way. And so that started with us then, my business partner Guy and I, making a decision to pursue our own artistic creation. And in this case, that the result of that was to go with Sad Buns. And Sad Buns has just been an amazing experience because that has helped us really tap into the Web3 community through having created a project of our own and then using this project, so in the case of Sad Buns, to do all of the trialing and erroring and all of the base research, as well as going into Instagram, especially early last summer, and basically saving about 40 plus different Instagram handles that contain the word NFT something in it. So we very much became quite prevalent and dominant within the NFT space and how we positioned ourselves to basically be running so many pages at once. And the result of that was that Blue and I connected via Instagram, and it was because of the fact that one, I was in NFTs, but besides that, which is quite interesting as well, was that I'm also in the drinks business. My business partner Jerome and I have a alcohol-free wine brand which will be launching this summer called Sin Vinos, and we produce that in Spain. And at the moment I'm based in Spain, but I finished my education in the UK and then I moved back last year here. And so ever since then, as mentioned, summer last year, it's just been full-time NFTs and all things Web3, and just figuring out how the applications and utility which essentially have emerged as a result of us having now kind of like a specific way to focus on what it is we're doing and have keywords to refer to it as. So in this case, obviously we're tokenizing the bottles to NFTs, but those NFTs, though aesthetically it might be artwork, which represents that collection, the actual NFT, as Blue was elaborating on, is more than just artwork, because it's essentially your access into the Yen Club, which is what Blue and I spent an extensive amount of time really just looking at, in how we would be able to set up an ecosystem where this concept of trust verification amongst all of our Yen official products could take place over time, especially as we expand product lines and so on, because why would we only limit ourselves to be in only gin? So we definitely have plans to explore all of the different exciting and new innovative ways that we can produce drinks that can, in many ways also inspire from just the lush nature that exists in New Zealand. There are many interesting botanicals worth exploring. So there's just lots of options in general. And so fortunately, through having all of these different points like fashion, drinks, NFTs, we were just able to really just, on the one hand, really connect and start to form a friendship. And obviously, wherever I could provide advice, I was always super happy to help. But everybody has their strengths, but everybody also needs a team to really be able to pull something brilliant forward. And as we know in entrepreneurship, there's no such thing as just doing something all alone. And again, it was more I had a very in-depth kind of knowledge which I was bringing with me, where I could help shorten the learning curve drastically for Yen to be able to just be Web3 ready, as well as it being, a physical product that exists in the real world and will be sold in a traditional way. But it'll also be essentially sold and just positioned in a completely new way, which is just so exciting to see how well our target audiences respond to the concept of really cultivating a world where you can universally consume the products you love, and that essentially that ecosystem that exists is all in agreement with this, because they all want to be a part of that process where you just know about kind of everyone across that supply chain point / customer experience. And we're definitely trying to push a lot of just new creative ways forward and how we're going to market this and how we're also going to just expand this brand. So it's just, again, as an entrepreneur in my heart, just wherever I get the opportunity to do something new and novel and different, it's just so exciting. So I'm just really grateful that Blue and I connected, and that, of course, Blue, Luke, and I are really just pulling this forwards now, and it's all really going very well. With the launch, just as the base launch, it was very successful, so everything's going really well. Right, Blue?
Oh, Blue. I think you may have lost your moment.
Sorry. Yeah,
No worries.
I think we couldn't said it any better, and I think we've just been super fortunate to have such a diverse team, even though it's just three of us, but how we all know our strengths and our weaknesses, and then we all fill that space, And I think that's the best thing with any business. It's knowing your strengths and knowing your weaknesses and filling those spots when you need to, and that's what we've done. And I think it's going to be great for the brand and great for the business. And I mean, it's all a learning curve. We'll see how it goes with this one, and it doesn't mean we're going to stick with gin. We might go, we have goals and we really want to go into more drinks and more beverages. So we've got a lot of, the future's endless, I think. So we've been very fortunate to be part of it so far.
Solid advice. And I think those are words to live by, especially if you're an entrepreneur, an enterpriser. Really understanding your strengths and weaknesses, and really forming a team where other members can complement for your strengths, and also kind of, I guess you could say people who you could lean on to maybe compensate for maybe weaknesses, so to say, in certain areas as well. Now, nobody's an island. Nobody's a one-person army. So I think that's very well said. And by the way, I have to say to the both of you, going on the website, yen.co.nz. This is an incredible website. And I would say this to all the guests who are watching right now. If you're in NFTs, you're in Web3, you're looking for a very catchy, and I mean catchy and engaging, I would even say enthralling website for a product, this is it. And I say this with all due candor, and I don't think I even say this type of statement too often. This is a excellent, I guess you could say artfully prepared website for this type of product. So again, I would say to anybody, go to yen.co.nz. And kind of, going off of that, could you explain the ecosystem? So I guess you could say the physical product of the gin and the NFT and the membership community, and what does all of that entail for somebody who wants to join, wants to start, getting Yenjin NFT tokens, and perhaps the Yenjin, I guess you could say, bottle of gin itself. And by the way, like I said, everybody, check out the website. Even the bottle alone is awesome, just from a pure branding and advertising point of view. So anyway, the floor is yours to the both of you.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. But yeah, basically the framework of what the NFT will do for us is we're releasing as an NFT initially. So that's the only way to get into the brand initially. So these 100 NFT holders will then get this exclusive lifetime membership access, basically, which then will give them an opportunity to be able to be part of the club, be part of close to us, to Joy, Luke, and I, and be able to talk to us through our Discord and kind of be in special avenues through that. And then also they will feel connected, like they'll be able to go to a bar if they're a holder of yen and pretty much just wave this card, right? And then you're already this person that you get discounts on your drinks, you get discounts on whatever they have. We have offerings into that bar, and the same in liquor stores. You get these discounts. Here in New Zealand, we only sell hard liquor in liquor stores. We don't sell it in supermarkets or anything yet. We're not able to. So our partnership with liquor stores will be great, and having that, it's kind of like having that membership card for your local liquor store, but it's actually global. So you can go anywhere you want to go. So I could be in LA tomorrow and use my card, or I could be back in New Zealand and use my card because I am a member. But then also, further from that, we want to keep growing that community and allow others to be able to get part of that community. So we have something called the subscription part that we're going to release later on today, and that will allow people to be able to pay a monthly fee, and then that will give them an exclusive whitelisting into the next NFT we release, and that will then give them the benefit of being able to buy another, get part of that NFT, and then they won't have to pay the membership. They'll be actually an NFT holder for life. But initially, before they get that NFT, they still get they get benefits. They do get other benefits, but just not as many as the one that owns the NFT. And then also from that, we kind of want to start doing more like, so when you buy, so there's 100, so there'll be 100 NFTs, which you'll get a number, and on your card you get your number, and then also that represents the kind of the tokenization of that bottle as well, which is really cool. But yeah, I think Joy she can jump in and talk a little bit more around her thoughts as well.
By all means, Joy.
Yeah, so what's quite cool about the ecosystem, as we refer to it, is that what we get to do is obviously really form close working relationships with the stockists and the venues who will stock yen. And the reason why with a product like yen, we'd be able to set something like this up is that because, of course, it's an upper market luxury product. So our point in which we compete is differentiation, quality, excellent customer experience, of course, taste, but the point is we're not a volume product per se. So when you essentially decide to be a part of yen as a stockist or a restaurant or a hotel, really it could be any point where someone might just be basically selling gin or any type of spirit for that matter, where they might also be interested though in that idea of onboarding into the world of blockchain, because all of a sudden this interesting gin brand is doing something with NFTs, which is more than just art. And what we're trying to do with our move, as much as we want to leverage blockchain technology for how it's going to benefit us as a brand, but we also want to use this as an opportunity to onboard, because this is that type of product which could compel, at the moment, I would argue, an industry which is more like hospitality, and I guess you could say like, restaurants, mixologists, and so on, just in general. They don't really necessarily have that NFT really. Besides, of course, there are companies like, especially whiskey, who have done certain things with NFTs. But the trick is, like, this just at the very beginning of where that whole industry in itself, just the liquor industry alone, where that's going to go. And then there's just so many different layers involved in how you can just tap into these worlds. But most importantly, because of that element of us trying to educate, trying to onboard, and to try to really like cultivate also, in many ways, a community for kind of all the venues and stockists and stuff, technically they would all, especially venues, because what we plan on doing, and it's already been set up on the website for people to just get a good example of seeing how it would all look, is that we have a virtual map essentially like I guess you could say, to give you directions to find your closest venue or stockist who may be supplying yin. So when you go on a trip somewhere, wherever you go, our plan is to, have global venues and stockists all over the world where you could really go and enjoy yin, regardless of where you are in the world. And that's what we want to try to build, and what we want to do with the website as well, once we actually launch the NFT collection, is to actually dedicate a section in the website where you actually can read about these venues, especially very interesting venues that we partner up with. We give them a great opportunity for people to learn about them too, learn about their cuisine, even mark their restaurant as like one of the must-go spaces when they're actually traveling or so. So all of a sudden, it's just this very interesting kind of like win-win-win-win model for all the different stakeholders in this picture, because throughout it's just been built on trust, it's been built on honesty, it's been built on quality relationship building, excellent customer service, excellent, of course, partner relationships, all important points within any operation, whether you're in NFTs or not. These are things that you should strive to have maintained in that type of way. So that's what we really want to try to do with this, seeing as we would be engaging with our supply chain that way anyways. Why not actually use this as a great opportunity to also just raise even more awareness about those that we, really connect with and want to work with. And, that'll really be one of those methods that'll help us drive the brand forward and motivate people to want to be a part of Yen Club, because we're putting in this level of effort for everybody to really win in this picture.
Wow. And by the way, appreciate that explanation. And one of my takeaways, and by the way, this is a learning experience for me, especially when it comes to gin. I had no idea gin is so readily able to be produced, unlike whiskey, which takes years, So when it comes to gin itself, it seems to me the market has severely underestimated this product, especially if it's something that's very complex tasting and it's good and it's readily available to be made and produced. So my question is, who was the demographic in mind when coming up with this product? And the reason why I'm asking, because in the US, it seems like the gin market has had kind of peaks and valleys and may have been a little fickle. Because I remember some years where gin was very popular and then it kind of goes into relative obscurity. And I know that's not the case everywhere. And a lot of times I think when it comes to gin, it seems to be like a drink and a product that you see more at kind of more, I guess you could almost call it aristocratic kind of settings, like dinner parties and, things that are a bit more formal. I look at the Yen Gin bottle, I'm like, I could see this at any major club in the United States. Like, this looks like something you'll see in Miami or New York City. So, listen, if you can kind of get into the nuances about that, that would be great.
100%. I think our overall goal was, we saw, especially in New Zealand or gin in general, it's all about the craft. It's all about like where it's come from, what botanicals go into it, and like the taste of it. And obviously that is it's the groundwork of what our brand is. Like it tastes good. We know that people love to drink. We know that they will buy and buy again. But at the further standpoint, we wanted to target a different audience to that. We wanted to be fresh. We wanted to be fashionable. We wanted to be in the world of like where me and Luke are kind of and kind of like I work heavily in kind of the music industry. So I wanted to be able to create a drink that we could get into music videos or connect with musicians and kind of like still sit and hit those type of people where they usually drink tequila, vodkas, that type of style. And then also, we knew globally, because Luke's from the UK and I've lived a lot here in the States. But back home, we don't really have bottle service, isn't really a thing. It's not like we go to a club and get a drink and we obviously get a table and you get bottles. And we're like, that's what we want to change the game with gin. So we wanted to come in on the champagnes. We wanted to come in on the vodkas. And we wanted to come in yin gin, the black sheep, and come in and be that type of thing. And that's why we wanted to make sure that the branding was bold, fresh, and kind of appealing to the younger audience. and it's sitting at the moment. We've got a few different type of prototypes that we did, and this was the latest one that we kind of went with, which is sitting in like the classic wine bottle style, but it's most bottles on the back shelf of the bar with the gins are either clear, and they're usually either kind of a square or a rounder shape, short and stumpy. And we're like, okay, let's do something that's fresh, modern, and kind of just an outlier. So when it sits up there, people are going to see this thing and they're going to be, oh, what's that? And they'll be intrigued, right? So that was kind of like the first kind of idea around the branding, the style, to target the audience that we want to hit, which is the younger from like the mid-20s to late 30s. But basically, we do understand that community is a little bit harder to tap into because spirits is a higher luxury price. So it's kind of, we're trying to work our way and kind of build an awareness and build that community, as well as still speak to the people that buy hard liquor. So yeah, we're kind of, but that was our kind of goal. We really wanted to sit fresh, new, modern, and sit where the vodkas sit, and don't sit where the gins normally sit.
Right.
So that was kind of the idea around the branding and the style of where it is.
Well put. Thanks, Blue. Enjoy.
Well, so the wonderful thing about Yin was that when I came in, it was more, I needed to come in to help Yin become a star, but the star in itself was already defined perfectly by Blue. So really where we are at now is to bring this brand to life and to let the world know about it, because it's definitely very exciting what we're doing. And we really hope that this is also really going to inspire many hybrid business models in future, just in the spirits industry, but others too, because again, what's so fascinating about this opportunity is we are just able to onboard more and more to be able to get to that goal that we're all working towards by being in Web3, which is, mass adoption, and that, we get to that part where basically everybody has, a crypto wallet of sorts, and they're using that
Right.
to interact online, to connect with people. That's that whole idea of the metaverse. I guess you could say that's kind of what happened to Blue and I when we connected on Instagram. That's kind of like the Web 2 face of like that final bit of what it will be like when you try to put together your perfect team online. And obviously once more and more people actually join some type of metaverse or some type of club there where they start meeting people, it just opens up so many opportunities to piece together the perfect team that you had previously maybe not had the ability to put together because you were restricted by essentially your geographical position, which is no longer the case now. And it's even more incredible because, obviously I'm able to support Yen completely digitally, and I'm not in New Zealand, I'm in Spain right now. And everything that I need to do for this brand, I can digitally do, which is just so amazing. And, there are just so many amazing tools out there too, to be able to just organize your entire operation completely digitally. So honestly, at this point, you have to ask yourself, like, if you're not setting up a business of some sorts online right now, like,
Right.
what are you doing with your time?
That's a very good point. And I wanted to ask you both, how did the team come up with the name?
It was actually originally, we're kind of bouncing through different ideas, and I was kind of like, our whole thing is around desire. I wanted something around like, this is something new, it's fresh, and it's kind of like, we wanted something that kind of represented that. And I was like, okay, we found out a word for desire is actually yin, or yearning for something. So you're yearning for something. And that kind of the whole thing around yin. It's basically the old English word, which is, obviously you've got the Japanese word for dollar, but then you've also got it for the old word is for yin. So you yin for something. So I yin and I desire. So it's all about desiring for the brand or desiring for what you want. And basically that's why one of our taglines is yin us forever. So it's desire us forever. And that's kind of like our back kind of bone to the brand, because we know that it's not just going to be gin, or it's going to be an overall products. So we just kind of want to be able to sit into different avenues with it. It could turn into the fashion world. It could be anywhere. But that's why we wanted an open brand product. And I think this name is strong. It's short. It's quick, and it's quirky in the sense that people are like, yen, what? Dollar, what? You know, or
Right.
there's a little bit of a new touch point to it. And I think, yeah, we've been very fortunate to kind of be able to tap into this and kind of, I don't know, just also just branding wise is super easy to brand because it's 3 letters, it's block, and
Sure.
it kind of just really hits differently. And that's why I think I'm just trying to just push on the name. And that's, there wasn't a huge backstory, but that's basically the backstory of it.
That is great. And, from an outsider, I have to say, between the bottle, between the website, between the content that's already out there, it has this very sleek, futuristic minimalism. So I think looking at the bottle, even if you don't know what's inside of it, you want to pick it up and see what it's about. That is my initial instinct from looking at the bottle, looking at the website. I'm like, this thing could be from like 2050. This thing could be from like, from like Blade Runner or some sort of like cyberpunk movie. It looks like it belongs in that type of context, and that type of context is always very cool for people, to say the very least.
Yeah, I think also with, especially in alcohol, it is initially because it is such a saturated market, right, in the beverage industry.
Right.
Like initially, it is eye candy. It is, people love to kind of like, oh, what's next? What's the new bottle? What's going on? And basically, like, look at the old school brands like Absolute Vodka from day one. They used to collaborate with artists, and they had a different bottle every month. And kind of like with us, we wanted something that gets that attraction first, but we know because Luke's specialty, and he's obviously incredible. He knows how to make the best tasting gin, like, and people love this stuff. Like we have been running a lot of tastings without even showing anyone anything to do with the brand. We didn't show any product. We never showed them what it was called, and people love the taste of the drink. Not because like if you get associated to something, you like the look of it, you might just assume that it tastes good. But people have no idea about it. They literally just have a glass tonic and the gin inside, and they're loving it, and they keep asking for it, and they want more of it. So I think initially, like if you see it in the store, you're going to buy it, but you're going to continue to buy it because you actually like it, and you become part of that. And I think there's a lot of brands out there that look amazing, look sexy, look great, but they don't taste good. And I think that's where we've actually been able to tap into it and be able to make it taste good, and then also still look good. And that's the art of making a good brand, and a brand that stays sustainable and gives us legs for the future. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build a proper brand, not just a gin.
And by the way, just to add, for anybody who's listening, other than the fact that this is a groundbreaking type of product, this is a good academic course on branding and marketing. So for all the viewers out there, listen closely to what Blue and Joy are saying right now. And I think some of these principles apply to almost any product as well. You really need to have a very strong foundation and philosophy behind it. And I think you both have articulated it very, very well. So thank you for that. Like, I'm learning a lot from this episode already, so I'm very happy. I was wanting to know the technology behind it. Obviously, without divulging too much, the NFT itself, is this going to be based on Ethereum or some sort of Ethereum derivative type platform? Whatever you both are comfortable discussing.
For sure. Well, initially, I'll just be quite honest to it. But basically, initially, we were looking at doing it through OpenSea because we wanted it to be, especially because it's new, and like gyms haven't really tapped into the NFT market. So I was like, okay, what's something that we can get people into easily, like Polygon or something that's so they don't go on and be like, damn, I've got to pay for an NFT, and then I've got to pay gas prices, and now I've got to do all this.
Yeah.
And then we were looking into it like that, but then I tapped obviously with Joy, and Joy, we started looking into it deeply. And with OpenSea, it's a great platform, and it's so open source, and it's incredible, and it's great for different things. But for us, as being what Yen is and what we want to do with this tokenization of it and become a brand that you actually buy into as being a club member, we wanted something that was a little bit more legitimate, something that obviously makes us a bit, it just looks more luxury because that's where we're trying to sit. So that's where we've been looking into different marketplaces and trying to find the best that really resonates with the brand and how it really works. And we've knuckled it down for a couple of different places, but then we've kind of set our stone on wearable, as we see that is it's a sexy brand, it's fashionable, it's peak, and it also has this really good connective with the tokenization that Joy could probably talk a little bit more around.
Yes.
Yeah, so in the end, we were just basically considering our options, and Rarible just made the most sense because the truth is, in the end, for what we want to create, the fact that we can tokenize the collection ourselves with a 721 on Rarible, and that just lets us completely authenticate our product, seeing as, you know, as we had mentioned, NFT, by being connected to the bottle, you know, that in essence is also like its own form of like trust verification, which you can verify from anywhere in the world, right? If you are one of those bars, let's say, or a hotel, or maybe a restaurant, and you manage to get one of the first 100 NFTs in this case, and then you have that bottle, you literally have a blockchain gin bottle, you know, in your bar.
Right.
That's something that's quite cool. And maybe the owner of that bottle doesn't even want to open it up. And then if they did, maybe they decided they're going to charge a premium for that bottle because it's a first edition, one of 100 yen gin bottles. And it's also completely verifiable through NFT tokenization, which is enabled through the blockchain. And therefore, you could literally check if it were or weren't in fact a legitimate yen gin bottle, right? Because you could scan it and it would take you then there to the NFT, which would represent the number that that particular bottle has been tokenized to, because that's how we've set the collection up. It's not that there's going to be a lot of varied artwork. The point is it's the first edition collection, and it's about the number in this game, and not so much about the artwork, even though the artwork is stunning, because obviously, you know, Blue is a super talent with this. But the trick is, of course, again, the beauty about the NFT is that we can give benefits and utility to the NFT, which we all appreciate about what the blockchain and NFTs gives us, is that you can attach so much to essentially one unit of something, whether it's an MP4 or a JPEG, whatever you want to go with. And then that's what makes it interesting in the long term, beyond it also just being a very cool piece of art and it being a very cool concept, seeing as we have that physical element attached with the real bottle and all. And of course, the owner of the NFT will receive that bottle. I mean, they will have to like check out in a very specific way. But we have that whole kind of plan set up in how you would buy the NFT, and then essentially you would be able to get in touch with us, and then you would give us your details, and then that bottle, as well as the card with the engraving of the number, that would all be there, and you would literally have your yen NFT.
They'll be the first people with the bottle, the first 100 people in the world with the bottle.
And I would have to. Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, but before we start doing any pre-orders or actual sales, so they will be the first people to have the bottle.
Wow. So being a member of the Yin Club, this to me almost seems like being in the VIP section or bottle service section already in a very virtual sense, and then also a tangible sense as well. So already the feeling I'm getting is once I become a member of the Yenjin community, it's like essentially being in the bottle service section. It's like being part of a VIP club, you know, so to say. So I think that's communicated very well from the website when I was, you know, looking at it. And I did have another question. So when creating Yin Jin, was this kind of made to be kind of almost like in defiance of the traditional gin industry? And the point I'm about to raise is purely anecdotal. So, you know, please correct me, clarify, you know, by all means, you know, further expand upon. So, you know, one of the major labels that comes to mind is Bombay Sapphire. So, you know, the UK-based gin, when I've been to the UK, I saw it virtually everywhere. In the US, not so much. And when you look at Bombay Sapphire, you look at the bottle, you have a sense that it's historical, it's regal, it's very classic, so to say, but it's not exciting. To be very candid with you, that's what I kind of took away from it. I look at Yin Jin. That is in total defiance of that, and I mean this as a compliment in a very positive light. It's exciting. Even if I do not know what's in the bottle, I would probably order it, so to say. So, I remember in my 20s, let's say if I was going out with my friends in New York City or various clubs, yeah, you do have the absolutes, you have the vodkas, you have the tequilas, and you have the, usual beers. But a lot of times you wouldn't see per se gin at a lot of those, kind of places. So when creating this product, did you have some of those kind of failings of the gin industry in mind?
Exactly. That's what I mean, from the get-go, it's all about craft, and it doesn't resonate. That's why it's not resonating in America, because you could be crafty out here in New Zealand, but who actually really cares where it's from? It's not that. It's more around like what alcohols all have backstories. They all have that type of stuff, but they need to be,
right.
You really need to adapt to the different market. And that's why we've seen that if we come out strong as a brand that's going to be adaptable in markets like the US or other places, I think it's definitely helpful for us as a new brand to be like that and be fresh, new, and kind of speak in a different way than everyone else. Because every week there's a new gin releasing in New Zealand, because it is such a trend at the moment, and the rise of obviously the users and people that are drinking it is dramatically increased. So we were like, we really need to figure out a way of, if we want to take it this avenue and take it this channel, we need a way of making us be fresh, new. And that's the whole thing around being new. It's the black sheep, and that's why we've made it a black bottle, and that's why we're different.
I like that.
We're the black sheep to the gin industry.
I like that. Enjoy.
I think Blue put it perfectly. I mean, in the end, there's huge demand for gin in the UK and Europe, but it's going to be very interesting to play with the power of branding and image, of course, because we got the flavor part on point. Now it's about the creative strategy to bring love for gin to life, especially in the US, which is just awesome. Challenge accepted.
Right.
Let's definitely make gin trend again in the US, seeing as obviously in Europe, and that's like the really interesting comparison in this picture, is that everybody in Europe loves gin. Everybody loves gin. So to hear about how it's not as much of a first choice in the US is just
that might change.
Interesting. No, of course, but I mean, for me too,
no,
just like
right.
for just like practical like market research, and it's just interesting to hear it from you as well, Adam, in our pre-show call, where it's funny, it's just I just, when you were so surrounded by one of the main cultures basically that consumes a product, of course, the market in general is oversaturated, and that's again why we have a differentiation strategy in place with how we tell a different story than every single, story that you classically hear with a traditional brand or, a traditional gin. It's just about being very forward thinking with taking technological advancements into account, seeing where the industry is going, creatively speaking, right? Like that's something that, like at the baseline, that's where Blue and I were at anyways. So by having this foresight into the future and being in the creative realm, it's like if you don't connect the two dots at this point, it was inevitable that something like this would have been one of those methods that will help us be competitive in an overly saturated market. And again, it's because of this differentiation strategy. And so, it's just really exciting to see what that's actually really going to do, and how that's going to shape and change consumer behavior in the process of us scaling this brand.
100%, I think so. And also, as any brand these days, if you don't come out as being caring like sustainable, caring about their environment or anything with packaging.
Good point.
Or and you get eaten alive. And if you don't come out, like people need to understand that the Web3 world is the future of any brand, no matter what it is. If it's a service, if it's anything, there is an opportunity in that, and you have to be adaptable, and you have to understand that the market is changing. And that's what we see it as a brand. We're just like, we really need to tap in now, so then we don't have to be like, oh, now it's too late. We're part of it, and we're building from that, because this will be the first step, and there's so much more for the industry to go further from this, but this is the first step in. And you have to be aware of what's going on in the audience. Like, no matter what your brand is, whatever your product is, you have to understand what's going on in the marketplace. And sustainability is a huge thing. And obviously, Web3 NFTs was a huge thing. So we really wanted to hit those two markets and make sure that we are doing those two things, because that is the future of a business these days.
That's great. And just to touch on a few things, I think your current customers and future customers will thank you both for this, and the entire Yen team, using Rarible to mint the NFTs versus other platforms. The gas issue is much more generous when it comes to using Rarible. And also as well, because less gas, so to say, Ethereum gas or whatever type of blockchain gas is involved, it is actually friendlier to the environment. So it is great that both of you and the team took that route. And, I always believe that fortune favors the bold. And I've also heard this other adage or quip or quote in various degrees, but it's better to be first than to be faster. So when this thing skyrockets and blows up and becomes big, you are the brand. There's nobody else doing this right now, to say the very least. So I think that is absolutely incredible. And I would say, from where both of you are, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs in this space that are trying to do something very out of the box and, very, whether you call it controversial, whether you call it esoteric, whether you call it just unique? What advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs? Because there has to be various points that it feels very, very tough to stick to your guns when you're doing something very different.
For me, it's definitely understanding what the audience needs, or understanding what the market needs. And if it still is what you're doing, then go for it. Hit the gun, run with it, and do it. And what have we got to lose, right? At least we've tried it, and at least we've got to do it. And it's like, there's always negatives, and there's always boundaries and barriers to overcome. And but you really just need to push through it, and you'll learn from it. And we'll learn from this. It might not be the first thing we do with the brand. It's just an amazing thing to start with, and it's something that we really we see heavily in love to be doing. So we're going with it, and it's basically, that's my advice, would just be back your instinct, back your gut, and just hit it and go.
Got it.
Because if you do. If you do, last thing, if you do care about something, then and you do really push it, and do really have a willing to do something for something, then, and your love for it, then it will do well. You will be successful in it. You just have to put your time and put your courage into it, and really just go for it.
Wonderfully put. Enjoy.
Beautifully put.
What about you? Yes, absolutely.
Well, so to add on to that, I would definitely say Blue described it perfectly, from where your spirit needs to be as an entrepreneur, if you want to really be an entrepreneur. And the only thing that I can do is recommend it, because, if you do embrace that fully, that's kind of you getting as close to freedom as you possibly can, and finding a way to do what you love, and then manage to also, sustain your life from that, which is, it's the harder way to go, but it's absolutely worth it. Anything worth having is not coming easy. And if it does come easy, I probably didn't want it anyways, because I feel like when you work hard for something, it just, nothing quite compares. But from an NFT kind of Web3 final bit of advice, just in the interest of just helping any brand who may come across this, I think that authenticity is really key when mapping out your NFT strategy, because it needs to align with what you're doing. So, for example, in our case, because we have real physical bottles involved in this picture, we don't necessarily need to compete on an arts front and have lots of varied content per se in our NFT drop. We can set it up in a way that it's more based on numbers, because we are restricting the number we issue to 100, and then that's 100 bottles that get set aside, which will be special bottles, hand signed, connected to the card, connected to the NFT. And then that in itself is its own product experience. But that works for Yen, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that would work for, let's say, an aspiring artist who wants to put together a more artistic brand, where maybe they're more in fashion or physical, any type of physical art, where they just want to also again leverage all of the many benefits that come from using the blockchain. Like one of them being, that artists can receive royalties every time that NFT sells. Of course, there are many other benefits involved, but these are great examples of solutions which were lacking, as well as being able to verify the authenticity of the NFT per se, and also, let's say, the physical good too that's attached to that NFT. This verification is enabled, so it's definitely worth it to have something like that in your model, and in whatever way that you could essentially try to tokenize or essentially give a title to your official item. This is definitely that opportunity to look at how you do that. But yeah, definitely do not doubt yourself. Go with your gut 100%. Go with the wave too. If you catch the opportunity, give it that extra 10 minutes to read, and then maybe give it that extra 30 minutes to read more. Maybe go watch a few more videos, because if it wasn't for the fact that my business partner Guy had watched a video on YouTube, and the keyword NFT had been featured in it, we would have not managed to have gotten in as early as we did, because we took everything that we knew as entrepreneurs and applied it to what this concept, like what an NFT was, and then basically just demystified it down to the part where we were like, okay, so this can be a lot. It's not just art. It's not just utility. It's all of the above and more. It's whatever you want it to be, but it's probably the most efficient way, and an automated way too, right? Because you don't have a human kind of manually doing anything in this picture either. It's bound by smart contracts, which have all of the details integrated within. When two conditions are optimal and right, they'll meet. And then there's no all of these issues that were previously associated with life as we knew it, more in, like, I guess you could say, the industrial age. We've just kind of closed as we're really entering into kind of like the industrial age in a digital era, where things will completely improve, and they will do so at a much faster rate now, as we know, like the space itself is traveling so fast. And to keep up, you need to dive in, and you need to keep up too. That's the other thing. Consistency is so key in this game. If you do not consistently do every single day,
Agreed.
you will unfortunately miss this train. Not that it's like you're missing it. We're so at the beginning that it's like I have to remind myself of that point, which is just crazy to think that. But it's, if you can catch a wave earlier than later, why not? And if this is where the future is going anyways, you might as well just do whatever you need to do inside to just get over whatever it is that stops you from wanting to learn, and just like
Go for it.
just learn instead of resisting. Everything that feels like it's not going to be possible, everything that feels like a challenge, everything that makes you procrastinate, you just have to, I know it sounds crazy, but you just have to just go against it, and you just have to keep pushing and keep going. And is there anything else you'd like to add, Blue?
No, that was absolutely.
Rock on. I totally agree with that. And I just got a few DMs right now, and if you two could be so kind, this is essentially the question: what is gin made out of, and how do you make it? This is from actually U.S.-based viewers of this episode right now. And like I said, gin is kind of relatively obscure in many ways. So if either of you could take that question and just kind of summarize what it is and the process to make it, that would be perfect.
Obviously, Lorck is the expert at that, but basically the foundation of what gin is juniper berry that you get from, it's grown in kind of like areas similar to like how wine and grapes are, like quite rugged kind of style. And then you take the ground, that's the framework, and then you can add any botanical, any kind of fragrance or anything you want. So you can add orange peel, you could add kawa leaf, you could add blueberries, you could add anything you want to that. But the foundation of what gin is the juniper berry, as well as obviously ethanol, like the base of alcohol. So you put those together, and then you can basically put it all together. And like Lorck can make a batch overnight. He makes different batches all the time. He's working on another batch at the moment, and basically that's the art of it. But the framework of it, and you have to make it gin, is have a juniper.
Thank you, appreciate that. And final question: what is next for you, gin?
And the release of the NFT is our next step after having obviously the release of the website. And then from that, it's just building this community and just building the brand further. We've got a lot of products that we've got in the pipeline and the works that we'd love to share, obviously soon coming, and people that get part of the community will get glimpses into new products and be able to even give us the art of obviously Discord, is we can put up a product and be like, what would you guys like to see next? Would you rather see a pink gin, or would you rather see a vodka, or would you rather see a wine? Like, what do you want? And we really want to engage with our audience and get what our audience wants. And basically, that's what we're trying to grow at the moment. We're growing the community so then we can give the community what they want, and then can grow further. And I think that's what we're trying to do step by step. From me,
awesome. Yeah. Well put. And I have to say to anybody out there who's watching this episode, like I said, it's better to be first than to be faster. So I would say Yen Gin, they are very much worth checking out right now. And as in life, you don't ever want to be too late. So I want to say, Blue, Joy, it was an absolute pleasure having both of you come on today, describe the product in such great, detail and minutia, going through every aspect of the branding, how it's made, the NFT process. This was a very, very illuminating episode from the both of you. And thank you so much for joining me today on Sunday to talk about the product. And I'm very much looking forward to having you both back on again in a few months. And then we can kind of recap from this and then find out where Yen Gin is now and what are essentially the next ventures and pursuits. And by the way, I would put this out to both of you. If you whenever the time is most appropriate, when you're looking to expand into the U.S., I do have a few contacts. I'd be more than happy to make some introductions, facilitate any networking on your behalf for that as well. So please, when that time comes, let me know.
Thank you so much. Really
Thank
appreciate
you so
it.
much, Adam.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Thanks for having us on.
Thank you both for coming on. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to both of you very soon.
You too.
You too, Adam. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for your time on Sunday as well, huh? It's
Anytime.
cool that we did this. Thank you so much.
Talk soon.
Thank you both.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Be well. Take care.